Hello friends, it's me. Actually, I'm going to switch to the screen. Hello, how are you? I need my blanket. It's me, I'm here. Let me say, ooh, is that on my pillow? That's not what I'm supposed to do. Let me say hey to everybody. Vinyl, enjoy your lurk. I hope you have a good day at work. Hope everything is super smooth and chill. Peter, hello. Happy final weekday Wednesday, my dudes. Angel Faye, hello, hello. How's it going? If it you, then who me? It you, Peter. Oh my goodness. Just give me a second to settle in here. It's Friday. I'm running on Friday time, which is, slightly slower than regular time, which for me seems to have been wonky of late. Anyway, finished your outline, Angel Faye. That's awesome. Are you gonna take the weekend off and just chill before you start writing it? When are you planning to start? What's the plan? Hopefully everything is working okay. If not, let me know if the sound balance needs changed or anything. Friday is a time for farts and darts, but absolutely zero sharts. It's a good policy, really. I am going to, again, I meant to set everything up before the beginning of stream. We see how well that went. Let me just bring up, the main reason why I'm on this screen is because I just actually want to show you guys some, deets here. So last Friday we actually did chapter labels, which was, I'm sure, the most exciting thing you guys have ever experienced. Beginning of stream doesn't exist. Stream has no beginning and no end. I mean, that's a good way to think of it. So last week we did chapter labels, but the week before that we talked about Cryptonia, which is my homebrew D&D world that I created a campaign in. And we're actually meeting tomorrow, so it won't be on stream because time zones just make it absolutely impossible to get streaming logistics worked out for this. But we're actually meeting tomorrow. We're actually doing a session. I'm super excited because it's the first time we've been able to since December, I think. It may have even been November. I think December and January we could not bring things together. So we are meeting tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. PST for antics. Yes, you may ask a question, Peter. I can't promise to answer, but you can ask. When you write a draft, you write it without... I do, yes. I write without editing. I try not to... Every now and then, if I'm, working on a scene and I'm like, oh, I forgot to add this to this scene that I intended to do in the scene that I'm writing, I'll swing back and add it or switch something around. Or if I'm, mid-conversation, recently I wrote a scene where a conversation was taking place, but I didn't like how the characters got into the conversation. I felt like it made the conversation not the way I wanted it to be. So because I was still actively working on that scene, I went back and changed it. Every now and then I'll do little things like that. But if I have to go back to a previous scene and change something in a previous scene, I don't. I just make a note and I just keep going. Or if, I write a scene, yesterday I wrote a scene and I'm like, that was a lot of info dumping. That scene probably needs to be, probably needs to have its order changed. I didn't change it. I just kind of kept going, because those are things that I worry about in edits. So I have a strict no editing policy for myself. If my draft contradicts itself, if it's a total dumpster fire train wreck, I just leave it that way until edits. Now I'm going to write my first draft, so I don't know how to write it. I mean, 100% find the thing that works for you. I do know people who are really careful and who go back and edit what they wrote the day before they keep going or whatever. If that works for you, then that works for you. For me, I find that if I go back and edit something, I never really move forward because I'm constantly editing like the first 3 scenes. And then, hey, Woof, how's it going? And then I get later in the book and realize I have to go back and edit that scene again anyway. So for me, it's just easier to get to the end of the first draft, make a list of everything that needs to be changed, and only change it once per draft. D&D secrets? I mean, there's not going to be any spoilers, Woof, I don't think. Nothing that you can't stick around for to hear. I do want you guys to be able to lurk in these streams or hang out in these streams. But we're gonna make some mythology for Cryptonia. I can't think of the exact words, but Cryptonia sounds like Krypton, where Superman comes from. Does that make you worried, or does playing offline eliminate the concern? Honestly, it never occurred to me that they were the same. Cryptonia is 100% just based on the word cryptic. Everything that the archaeologists and historians have found about this previous empire, for a refresher for anyone who's like, what the hell is Cryptonia? Basically, the game takes place in a place called Ashvalerin, which means Ashvale. And this is a galactic empire that sprung up after the apocalypse of a previous and more advanced civilization, the original name was lost. Everything that the archaeologists and historians have found about this previous civilization is very cryptic and vague and incomplete, like difficult to discern. And so they named it Cryptonia as a joke. So it's 100% based on the word cryptic. I mean, the word cryptic is almost 100% in the name. So people would have a hard time, first of all, anyone would have a hard time convincing me that it's based on Krypton, because it wasn't. But to me, it seems a little bit of a stretch. I don't worry about stuff like that very often. Often people get similar ideas to other things. I mean, I straight up have a place in the Aravalia Chronicles called The Mistborn, and there's literally a very famous trilogy. I think it's a trilogy. There's a very famous series by, who is it? Brandon Sanderson or whatever, called The Mistborn. And I've not changed the name. I came up with that name in 2011, well before the Mistborn series ever came out. I have not read the Mistborn series. I don't care that the names are the same. There's a rationale for why it's called the Mistborn in the book. I highly doubt he's gonna sue me. So, I don't worry too much about that stuff. I think for this one, it would be a particular stretch to try and say that it was based on Krypton. I don't know much about the lore of the history of the world. No, it's not a rude question, Peter. And I get it. I get being paranoid about creation and about worrying that... Also, did I say, hey, Exiled Fae? Hey, Exiled Fae, how's it going? Peter, Peter, how's it going? But also, Woof, how's it going? I wanted to say, how's it going, Woof? And I was like, hey, Peter. You're both Peter today, apparently. I totally get the paranoia about if I write this thing and I use this name that I want to use, is someone gonna sue me? There are actually writers out there who recommend using similar names to famous books as a marketing tactic. Which I'm not necessarily comfortable with doing, but copyright law is very specific. And in order to be considered plagiarism, you can't, it's not necessarily just taking a name and using a name, right? Plagiarism is a lot more specific and nuanced than that. So, and you can't, really, Krypton isn't a copyrighted thing. It's not a copyrighted name because you can't necessarily copyright a name within a franchise, if that makes sense. Hey, Kademon, how's it going? So stuff like that, I don't worry about too much. If I had created a world that sounded exactly like Krypton and functioned exactly like Krypton, I would worry about that. I would worry about inadvertently creating something that is exactly similar to another thing, because if the idea is exactly similar, that's when you start to get into murky territory. But it often happens that creatives have very similar ideas or very similar concepts, and it just happens. I get so paranoid about people taking my work because it's happened, and I also worry, like, will this be similar to X thing, even though I have no idea they exist? I think a lot of people worry about that. And unfortunately, because you've had experience with people stealing your ideas in the past, I don't think that'll go away. I don't think any amount of saying, hey, don't worry about that, will make you not feel that way if you've actually experienced it. But I will say I wouldn't worry too much about being sued. People can tell the difference between synergy and actual straight up I stole this. It's like how just before the movie Armageddon came out, the movie Deep Impact hit a few months before. Yeah, and it just so happened that two people were making movies about the same thing. I actually think Deep Impact was the better movie, having seen them both within like 2 months of each other when they first came out. I actually think Deep Impact had a lot more thought and a lot more nuance in it, but Armageddon was the more famous movie because it had Bruce Willis and a better soundtrack. It had bigger name actors, it had a better marketing campaign, it was more action-y. Deep Impact was more science-y. But hey, they all got high schools named after them, and if you've seen Deep Impact, you'll get that joke. Can I try? I mean, yeah. I mean, I would say don't worry too much about people stealing your ideas. If someone has like actually legitimately plagiarized you, you'll be able to tell. And if you're like working on a novel and someone yoinks it from you and publishes it ahead of you, you'll be able to prove, you'll have a paper trail, you'll be able to say, like, this was mine, you can't have it, GTFO. I think most of the time, I don't know if this is comforting to anyone, but we're so small in our part of the world right now that I think people are unlikely to try and steal something from you. But if they did, you would have people to support you. You would have us to support you. You know, you would have a paper trail, like I said. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. Like, don't curtail your own creativity or creative freedom because you're worried about stepping on someone else's toes. You have to actually consciously plagiarize someone to plagiarize someone. Accidental plagiarism isn't really a thing. In media school, I wrote a script of a person who didn't know he was dead and wondered why he couldn't leave the house and why nobody saw him. I had a friend who did a very similar thing. She wrote a story about a girl who kept getting overlooked, and she would go into restaurants and like be like working on her art or whatever, and it turned out at the end that she was a ghost. When I was close to being done with it, I happened to see the movie The Others and felt they stole my idea. It does happen. It does happen. There's a synergy, and creatives talk about this a lot too. Like, there's a synergy in storytelling. This is why they say originality is dead. There's no such thing as a 100% original idea. It's all how you do the idea. It's all what you do with it, right? So make every idea yours, and that's the main important thing. Deep Impact is really good. As soon as you set an idea down in writing, you have copyright to it. You don't have to publish to establish copyright. Exactly. If someone stole a piece of your work in progress and published it, you would be able to prove that because you would have the paper trail, and they would be in violation of copyright law. We were doing fake pitches to a guy who worked for the BBC. I think you told me about this before. I pitched a reality show that was like cameras watch behind the scenes of a railway and find out why the trains are so shit. And this guy was like, so you want to just put cameras on trains and see what happens? That's not a good idea. And then a few years later, a documentary series set on Scottish trains called Central Station appeared on BBC Scotland. I mean, it seriously sucks, Peter. Do you know for sure that the guy who made it overheard you, though? Like, because somebody, not to minimize your situation or your feelings, because I 100% do not want to do that. But it's entirely possible that someone also just had a similar idea and was like, fuck everyone, I'm gonna do it and prove them wrong. It's possible. It wasn't necessarily malicious. But it does suck that it seems like you actually pitched that idea and somebody was like, hey, actually, I can actually do that. Found an app that is similar to Scrivener. I can never say that word right. Forgive me. That's awesome, Angel Faye. Is it cheaper? I don't discount it's possible that someone else had a similar idea, get ideas happen, and haven't been able to find the guy's name in the credits, but then not everyone who works on a show gets credit. That's true. That's true. And it's entirely possible that somebody pitched the idea to somebody else who eventually made it. So there's no way to prove either way. But I mean, if I were in your position, I would feel shitty too, Peter. And I get it. But the best thing to do is just do your stuff, right? Do your creative stuff. And if anything, Scrivener, is it? Is there an L in there? Oh no. I think Woof is fucking with me. I'm unlikely to use it, Angel Faye, but if you want to drop it in the Discord under the writing resources, there are some people who would probably love to check it out. Hey, the real salties, what is up? All right, so anyway, ideas. This is my Gods of Cryptonia document, which my players have all read. So this is not Secrets for Woof, unfortunately for him. But last time, I did see the photo of the new Ursula that you posted. Unfortunately, I hadn't had coffee yet, so I did not reply, but I did see. I am, as you can see, I am drinking from Ursula this morning. So last time we basically talked about the end of the mysterious Cryptonian, civilization, essentially, the beginning of its collapse, and we wrote a document that was written by somebody who essentially lived through that apocalyptic period, which my players might be able to find later at some point. And so that was sort of like a little introduction to just that sort of event for Cryptonia. And now I want to take a deeper look at the gods, because one of the gods, Elianath, the Celestial Mother, actually two of the gods were mentioned. Elianath was one of them, and Agos was the other. But today I want to look at Elianath, who is the head of the pantheon, the Celestial Mother, the sort of creator goddess. She would be the equivalent of, say, Zeus or Odin, the sort of god that sits at the head of the pyramid, the one who is sort of the center of everything, in charge of everything, for this pantheon. I did not know that Picard Season 3 had started, Peter, so no. If you look in the Discord, Angel Faye, under the Strikers Library, there should be a place called Writing Resources, and that would be a good place to put it, because I think a lot of people would actually be interested in checking it out. Probably if they're doing a week-by-week release, which I think for some stupid reason lots of shows are doing right now, we will wait until it's finished before we watch it, because we're binge watchers. So yeah, I want to take a little bit more time and do some mythology creation for this world because as Ghost Pepper kind of illustrated on Winds of Chaos this week, although this was my plan before he did that, but as he kind of illustrated with Winds of Chaos this week, there are hey Lomi, how's it going? There are times when having like an actual in-world myth that you can tell, and I think Matt Mercer does this a lot too with Critical Role, and I know definitely for sure that Mark Humes does it a lot with High Rollers as well. Like if your characters can encounter in-world lore, in-world stories about, you know, mythical figures or old gods or whatever, it makes the world feel more living. This was something that I did not do for Aravalia specifically because I think 90% of the characters in that novel do not have any religious beliefs at all, so they would just dismiss all of that stuff as nonsense. So it felt like adding that stuff in it was a piece of world building that would unfortunately never get used. But it is something that I did for the Celestial Serenade, and it was something that got referenced several times, especially in the first 6 books of the series. And it's something that I want to do for Cryptonia because there are a lot of people and like high-profile NPCs in this world who are still quite religious and who still believe in these gods. And the gods of Ashvalerin are the same gods that were worshipped in Cryptonia. So it will help make the lore pop, and there might be some clues as to what's going on in the bigger universe embedded in some of that, of those stories and beliefs. Angel Faye, I don't know what my tongue did with your name there. Thank you so much for posting that. Appreciate it. I'm sure lots of people will. It's been a minute. Interesting things happening. Oh, Lomi, anything you can share? Wolfkeeper, hello. How's it going? Picard has a horrible habit of having an absolutely outstanding season opening episode, then being diminishing returns. I don't know. I think people have been unnecessarily harsh about Picard. I know a lot of people didn't really like season 2, and I definitely felt there were issues with season 2, but then the last episode made me cry. And the whole season was about Picard and Q, who are, like, my favorite, I'm just gonna say it, couple in that universe. So, my favorite pair, I guess I should say, in that universe. The dynamics of their relationship are very interesting, and I felt like they did justice to it. So I'm on the Picard is decent side of the fence. I don't think their writing is, like, the best writing. They did basically create a magic MacGuffin that broke the universe by fixing everything in the first season and then not using it to fix a bunch of things. But it's not as bad as everybody says it is. I think the idea of a serial episode, like a serial story of Star Trek is not everyone's favorite bag of tea. I think Strange New Worlds really scratches the itch of an episodic Star Trek. It's a little bit easier to have a positive tone when you have an ending at the end of each week, and you can do a more a slow sort of introduction to a story kind of thing, like they've been doing with Captain Pike. But I am a fan of Picard. So hey Laurel, how's it going? Finished a new book. Goes out next week. Nice! Congrats! Finally got the doll I sculpted into production, and pre-order goes up soon. Oh, nice! Getting a puppy and a candidate for a literary award, and was invited to a ceremony and banquet next month. That's awesome! None of those things have really happened for me. I did put out a book on Monday. Also, I guess I should mention this. I'm so super bad at freaking marketing, aren't I? If anyone is interested in the Celestial Serenade and has not yet checked it out, The first book, The End of All Things, is actually free for Kindle right now on Amazon. So let me get you guys a link. If you've been on the fence about checking it out, or if you've been like, hey, that sounds really cool, the link that Peter shouted out will bring you to just my general book page, and then the one that I posted is the direct link for the freebie. It's free until Sunday, so feel free to grab it, give it a try, see if the series is to your liking. There are 7 books in the series so far, and there will be 9 books by the end of the year. But that's awesome, Lomi. I hope you win the award. That would be amazing. Please share pictures. Lomi is a fellow fantasy writer, so if you want to check out her stuff, you can do a shout out, Lomi, or you can drop your links if you like. The thing about Strange New Worlds is we all know how it ends. I think their actual plan for that show is to phase Pike out and have Kirk take over. But I didn't like the Kirk that they had in the show. They had Kirk in an episode of the show, and I did not like how they portrayed him. He did not feel very Kirky. Kirk is supposed to be very cavalier and sort of devil-may-care. He's supposed to be this young gun, charismatic, and they went a little, like, ultra serious, ambitious with him, and I don't think that Kirk was ever, like, super serial. He was just kind of like, I'm out here to do a job, and I'm gonna do it my way, and whatever. I mean, he is very intelligent, but I don't think he was ever particularly driven, having been a fan of the original series. Anyway, stuffing my face with a salad. That sounds delicious. I'm doing pretty good. It's Friday. We're gonna work on some mythology here if I ever get done yammering. Made 3 lyric collages so far and started on my Pandora line project. That's awesome. I don't think I missed anything in chat. My tongue, not my thong, sorry. My tongue is not doing the stuff that I want it to. So, the Celestial Mother, Alianath, is who we're going to be looking at today. So there are 7 primary deities in the Cryptonian pantheon. And so there's more gods than I mentioned in this document, but I kind of wanted ones that were specifically... No, Angel Faye, it's my tongue's fault. It's not doing what I want it to do. Basically, I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but there are 7 core worlds in Ash Valorin who were the original Alliance members that created this galaxy, like this galactic empire, and each of them is devoted to a different god. So the population primarily worships one of the 7 primary deities. There's a lot of 7s in this in this series, in this world building, essentially. So Alianath is the center of this pantheon. She is worshipped in the central, I believe the planet that she is like the patron of is essentially the central planet for where like all the council meets. It's like the capital world of Ash Valorin. I almost said Cryptonia. Cryptonia is dead. It's like the central world for Ash Valorin. And she is sort of the goddess with the most wide influence. So even on planets where the population is particularly devoted to another god, Alianath, the Celestial Mother, is often invoked in prayers as well. She's sort of the most universally revered or sort of respected deity because she is sort of the creator goddess. She Some people believe that she not only created the universe and the galaxy and everything that's in it, but that she also created the other gods as well. Some of the stories are similar to Greek mythology in that a bunch of the gods were born at the same time, and Aleanath was one of them. And some of the stories say that Aleanath was the first, that she was there before everything else, and that she created her brothers and sisters. Because in mythology, people are constantly mother and sister anyway, so, you know, mythology. It's weird like that. So Aleanath was born from the fabric of the universe itself, and is said to be the origin of all life in the universe. She set the stars in motion, created the planets, which all other life eventually populated, the fish in the seas, the birds in the skies, and all the races that inhabit Ash-Valoran. So it's not like each different species, because let's be honest, there's like 50 million species in D&D. Each species doesn't necessarily have their own creator deity. They all just believe that they were created by Aleanath, and because Aleanath is this very celestial figure, not necessarily usually depicted in a specific personalized form, she is sort of cross-species recognized. Aleanath sucks, Nith is forever. We're gonna take a look at Nith or Neith next, but not necessarily today. All the sevens, for sure. So the Celestial Mother is often depicted as a spectral being. She can take human or elven form. She could actually take any racial form, but she is usually depicted as having stars burning beneath the surface of her skin. Her hair is long and forms the curl of the galaxy's arm. The galaxy's arms, because it's a 4 spiral arm galaxy. Her eyes are twin suns, and all the planets make up her wardrobe. When depicted in a less spectral form, Aleanath is considered a perfect beauty with long raven or snow white hair, delicate cheeks, and full lips. More than just a fertility goddess, the Celestial Mother is considered the ultimate authority in the galaxy, capable of weaving the universe to her whim. Not only does she allow life to form, she allows it to continue. To summon the wrath of the Celestial Mother is to call death and doom upon you. Aside from the gift of life, Aleanath is said to have bestowed the power of Oracle to her chosen few, allowing them to glimpse hints of the future and warn others of impending trouble. She is a speaker of prophecy, and her predictions are not to be ignored or denied. Worshippers of Aleanath claim that she is the mother of the rest of the gods in the pantheon, despite the priests of other gods claiming that some, especially Nith, who Wolf mentioned, were clearly her siblings. Aleanath alone is said to be able to bestow divinity upon another, though there is only one known case of her doing so. It is widely believed that Agas, the horned warrior who I mentioned before, was not born a god, but rather born a mortal. Aleanath chose him as her champion and later raised him to divinity as a reward for faithful service. Some claim that there was romance between Aleanath and her chosen, though most agree there were no children from the union. Others claim that Aleanath pined for Agas, but he never allowed himself to return her affections because of his commitment to duty. Some churches still recognize the divine connection between Aleanath and Agas, and others forbid depictions of Agas within their temples. Something not touched upon specifically here, but we could take a peek down further. There was some dispute between Aleanath and Agas, between the Celestial Mother and the War God, essentially. Nith's A-O died, so now we have the Penith. Her name can actually be pronounced Neith, like beneath. The Celestial Mother, Aleanath, is the goddess of life, and Nith or Neith is the goddess of death. She is the Reaper. But there was a dispute at some point in the past between Aleanath and Agas. The details are uncertain because worshippers of Aleanath depict it one way and say that Agas was at fault, and therefore they have stricken him from some of the records and depictions of the worship of the Celestial Mother. And of course, if you ask a worshipper of Agas, they will say that it was actually the Celestial Mother who was an unreasonable bee, and therefore Agas is the best, Agas is the greatest. go a goss. But there was a bit of a dispute among the gods. Certain gods took different sides. Yeah. I mentioned this before, but I purposefully, when I created this pantheon, created conflicting stories. So if we were to read through all of it, there are depictions. Hey, Apple, how's it going? I was lurking in your stream briefly last night. I know I did not say hey, but I caught the end, and I was lurking, and it was super chill, and I appreciated it. And I hope you're doing well. So yeah, if we were to read through all of the stories, there are tales of certain gods being lovers with 2 different people or 3 different people. There are tales of rivalries / best friendships. So there's a lot of contradiction. And the reason I did it this way was intentional, not necessarily to mislead or misdirect, but because if you read through Greek mythology, it's the same. Every local Greek town or city had its own belief system, its own story about this particular god and how they acted. And so this is why you sometimes have gods that seem very loving and caring, but also they will strike you down where you stand, is because over time, as people travel and as these stories about these different gods travel, they sort of get amalgamated until you end up having a bunch of contradicting stories. And I think, honestly, this is one of the reasons why Zeus has sex with everything. It's like every town has this crazy story about what Zeus screwed because he was bored one afternoon. And so they just all become just this one giant horny god story. And then everyone is like, lol, Zeus screwed everything, because in the amalgamated mythology, he actually did. But it's also why you have gods like Athena, who is one giant horny god story. That's why you have gods like Athena, who is sometimes depicted as very wise and very demure and very diplomatic in her handling of people, and then other times just like many goddesses in the blind rage, and if you piss her off, she'll do bad things to you. I think Aphrodite is actually kind of universally a B. Aphrodite and Hera were not nice ladies, but you often have these 2 sides to most figures, where in certain stories they are very kind and wise and benevolent, and in other stories it's like, yeah, if you piss this god off, they'll fuck you up. And it's just because each area, each region, each town had their own sort of way of dealing with explaining how things were, right? So I tried to do the same thing. I tried to build the same kind of concept into my mythology. And so what I'd like to actually do, now that I've spent like a half an hour yakking at you guys, is I would like to actually create some in-universe stories. I did say, I think it was Wednesday, I said I didn't know if I wanted to write a creation myth, because I think creation myths are really common. But I actually came up with 2 different ideas for creation myths, and I'm thinking about actually writing them both, because I don't know that either of them will be particularly long. And honestly, if you look at creation myths in the real world, again, there's dozens of them. Many of them amount to the same thing. There was nothing and then there was something, and this is how it got there. The creation myth for Egyptian mythology differs. G Chili, hey, how's it going? What is up? What time are you starting your writing stream later, by the way? Because I want to come hang out. And how you doing? But the Egyptian, there's like 2 different Egyptian mythology myths. One of them is that essentially Ra, the first of the gods, rose out of the sort of celestial abyss, this empty nothingness that was full of water, and spat upon it, and from the spit all of the other gods were born. Some of the stories say that essentially there was this giant empty water, and then in that giant empty water there was a hill, and on that hill there was an egg, and in that egg there was Ra, who burst forth, and then other things happened. So there's tons of creation myths. I believe that one of the Norse creation myths was essentially that there was a giant that was slain, and the giant became Midgard. And so, you know, the mountains were like his knees or whatever, and his flesh was the soil of the earth. Someday I should write a post-apocalyptic story with an anti-creation story that when the gods started to exist, they wrecked everything instead of making everything. That would work really well. Because the gods don't tend to be particularly helpful. Or even when they are helpful, it ends up being not helpful. So I came up with two creation myth ideas, and I kind of like both of them. I haven't fully fleshed either of them out. I'm probably just going to do a writing sprint and just see what words come out of me. But the one of them was essentially how the Celestial Mother, like, created the universe, and the idea that I had is sort of like she pricks her fingers and the drops of blood become stars. So like the drops of blood that she sort of, as she sort of moves her hand in a spiral, she creates these blood drops that become stars, because she is depicted as having stars beneath her skin. So the whole of the universe contained within her, so it would make sense that she just let out the stars. That her breath becomes the air of a planet, that the rivers are her tears, that sort of thing. Oh, thank you, Caedmon, but I have books and books about Norse mythology here at home. We actually have both the Elder Edda and the Prose Edda on our bookshelves. I have read pretty extensively about Norse mythology. Yeah, we're nerds. I also have Bullfinch's Mythology sitting on my nightstand right now because I'm getting ready to read it. For those who aren't familiar, Bullfinch was one of the first people to translate many of the Greek myths into English. So for a significant period of history, anyone who had studied classical mythology had studied it through Bullfinch. So I have a lot of nerd books. My husband is a history major. I have a lot of nerd books. But I appreciate. I highly recommend checking out Norse mythology. It's one of the more interesting ones. And as Lomi was saying, they actually have a story about the end of the world. They actually have this giant mythology about Ragnarok, right down to exactly what will happen when Ragnarok occurs, which gods will die, and it's this whole big, one of the reasons why the honorable dead are gathered in Valhalla, and also, the name of it escapes me at the moment, but the Vanir, Freya, also received a third of the honorable dead. And so the reasons why those two halls were filled with honorable dead was because they would be the army at Ragnarok. They were the souls who would hunt, who would fight, and who would fall again during Ragnarok. Until then, they just had, massive parties and got drunk all the time because the afterlife is great. Loki is my favorite mythological figure for sure. Consummate trickster god. There's a trickster god in the Cryptonian pantheon. If we scroll all the way to the bottom, Emorad, the shifter, who is the trickster god, because you gotta have a trickster god. But so yeah, the idea essentially of Aleanath taking the pieces of her body to make the places in which people live, and essentially this explaining why she is the universe, right? The universe is made of her, and she is made of the universe. So something kind of like that. And then I also had this idea of a Leonath. So as I was saying, sometimes in mythology, there is the universe first and then it gives birth to a deity, or there is a deity first and they give birth to the universe. So this idea that sort of a Leonath was the first thing, the first thing in existence, and that as the rest of the universe was coming into existence, she sort of saw herself reflected in this celestial mirror, and that everything that she has created since then has been an attempt to create this perfect reflection. It's very narcissistic, but this very perfect reflection that she witnessed very briefly within the celestial void, and that everything that she has created is somehow imperfect because you can't replicate a perfect being, right? But that she's basically on this endless quest to recreate this perfect reflection, and that's why there are so many different planets and so many different species of all, and so many different subspecies of all the different species, is because she's like on this quest to create this perfect ultimate replica of herself. So these would be stories that would be told within the church of a Leonath. I also would like, we might not get to it today, because it's already 11 and I've written 0 words so far, you guys. But we might not get to it today, but I would also really like to do at some point a story about how a Leonath made Agos into a god. Because I would really like to write it from a Leonath's perspective and then again from Agos's perspective. Because there's this clear dispute between the two churches over the two of them, essentially, and what the relationship was, and which of them was the good guy and which of them was wearing a skull on their uniform. And so I'd really, really like to write it from the Celestial Mother's perspective, and then again from Agos's perspective, just to see how they're different. So I wouldn't probably get to all of that today, but there's a Swedish comic about the Norse gods. That's awesome. Odin is cool. Odin is really cool. But Loki is just, there's just something about him. Tricksters, man. Tricksters. I feel like Greek mythology just doesn't have a really good trickster. Not in the way that Norse mythology does. There is a trickster god in Egyptian mythology. He tends to kind of be overlooked or get labeled as evil. But man, Loki was like consummate trickster god. I think I also missed something that Peter said about the Enterprise. She looks gorgeous and I love the details. But I think by the time Kirk takes over, she's not a new ship. She's going to have to take a massive shit kicking. I mean, they can figure that out, I suppose. Thing is, every time they destroy an Enterprise, they just rebuild it. So, you know, I was thinking of Hermes. He is, I think, as close to a trickster god as the Greek pantheon gets. And I do think they did a good job of him in Hades, if anyone has played the game Hades. I feel like, because if you watch the Disney Hercules movie, Hermes is just like kooky old Uncle Hermes. He's just like this sort of hipster Uncle Hermes. But I think they did a good job with him in Hades, where he even talks really fast, which I kind of like. He just kind of shows up and says stuff and sometimes casts shade. And I think he makes a wager with you at one point in time or something. So I think it's like the best depiction of him that I've seen. But even Hermes is a little too steady, a little too dependable. As the messenger of the gods, to be a full-fledged trickster in the way that someone like Loki is. There's really no way to retcon the level of technology design with each iteration of Star Trek. When you go back in time, they're not going to remake the walls of the Enterprise into cardboard and string. That's not necessarily what I meant. I more meant that so shows that are episodic shows have this really bad habit of they want to do something to make the peril seem more immediate and urgent. And so they'll do something like shoot up the Enterprise and explode the bridge or whatever. But the problem with doing that is next week the Enterprise needs to be functional for next week's adventure. So anything they do to kick the shit out of the Enterprise, it'll be fine in a week. They'll go into space dock and it'll be patched up good as new is more what I meant. So being worried about like, oh no, like the Enterprise is gonna look used by the time Kirk gets there. They'll either fix it or they will get rid of the original Enterprise and just put Kirk in charge of the Enterprise A. I don't remember in the original lore when the Enterprise A came around. I do believe it was not the Enterprise A in the original series. It was just the serial code. And then I believe the Enterprise A was in the movies. Because there was a new version of the Enterprise that they almost instantly destroyed. And then at the beginning of Generations, they were christening the Enterprise B. And then, of course, by the time we get to TNG, it's the Enterprise D. Yeah, no bloody A, B, C, or D. Oh man, original Scotty, rest his soul. He was amazing. So yeah, I'm going to take a quick break, and then I'm going to stop talking at you and actually start writing. So if we switch back to here, I'll just get up my document. And I think what I'm going to do, my plan has sort of been to write little introductory, oh my God, why can't I talk? To write these little introductory stories about each of the gods. So I'm probably going to do the 2 creation myths, which I expect will be mini stories. I don't think they'll be more than a couple hundred words each. And then I'm going to take the information that I have about the Celestial Mother and work it into the blog post. And after I've done that, that will probably be all we have time for today. But if we have extra time, I might start the Agas myth. Otherwise, I might save that for another day because I don't think it's going to all fit in the same post anyway. And let me just... you guys will have to tell me. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Are you guys able, on full screen mode, are you guys able to read that? Ooh. Because there's no need to hide words today because there's no spoilers. Are you on the full screen and source, Cademon? I can't, unfortunately, make it much bigger than that. Unless you guys don't want clicky clacky cam today. We can turn off clicky clacky cam if you guys don't want clicky clacky cam. But it's up to you guys. If you guys would rather read the words, I can switch back to the display that we were on. Then you won't be able to see me typing. No, I am very, very picky about my writing environment, so I cannot make the text bigger. That will screw me up. Sorry. I can make the text as big as I can fit on the screen and give you guys clicky clack cam, Or we can switch to this and you guys can have the text on the screen. That's a me thing. That's not me trying to be mean. I am very, very picky about what my writing environment looks like. That is 100% a me thing. But it's up to you guys. No, Caedmon. It was a totally reasonable request. And I know that it's a totally irrational thing to say no to. But every writer has their thing, and that's one of mine. I write in Times New Roman size 12 font. That's what I write in. It's one of my weird quirks. So yeah, it's up to you guys. I'm gonna take a quick break anyway. So I could always do a poll. I think I can do a poll. Clicky clack cam. Yes, please. No words. I will put that up for 3 minutes. So you guys can vote on whether or not you want clicky clacky cam or if you guys want bigger words. And I will be right back. Okay, I'm back, and I don't see the poll. Did it, like, vanish? How do I... How do I see what the poll was? Did anyone see... I did a poll before I left. Did it vanish when I switched scenes? I saw one vote for words. The last... Okay, do you guys want me to rerun the poll since... Okay, that's hilarious. In case you guys were wondering if I'm, like, totally incompetent. Just so you guys know, just so you guys know, if you can't read it, don't worry too hard. These all go up on my blog. If you don't see the poll, which I have restarted, refresh the page. If you're on mobile, I think you have to refresh in order to see the poll. Again, these will go up on my blog. So if you don't read it today, if you don't see the words today, you'll be able to read it unobstructed. I know this is a, I can honestly try to make it a little bit bigger. Hang on. Try to give you guys the best of both worlds. If I move clicky clacky cam, hang on. I don't know if that helped at all. Hang on. In case you guys are ever wondering if I'm, like, completely incompetent, is that a bit more readable? That's not much smaller than it would be on the other screen, in all honesty. And I can try to fit the clicky clacks on this side. How's that? How's that for a best of both worlds? Can you read that? It's ironic because last Friday, Joe decided to make his words smaller than we could read, and we were like, hey, yo, we can read that. So how's that? Are you guys able to read that a bit more? Is it... Have I made it big enough? Honestly, I think if I switch it... For me, it looks tiny because I'm not on full screen anyway. So it's not that much smaller. Hopefully it didn't sound too mean when I said I didn't want to up the size. That is one of my weird quirks, is that I used to actually write in size 10 font, and I used to be very fanatic about it, but then I got a little bit older and my eyes got not as great. So can you guys read this? Is this a bit better? I think this is about the same size as on the other screen, and I think that's about as big as I can get it and do both. Just waiting. I'm just gonna give it 30 more seconds and see if anyone says, yes, I can read that. No, I can't. And then we'll do actual sprints. Sprinty spronts. I like doing this kind of writing because it doesn't have to be very, when you do, prose, like when you do narrative, you have to show things. But when you're writing what is essentially a fairy tale, you can do a lot more telling, and so you can play around a bit with imagery in a way that you can't necessarily when you have to write narrative. So for the people who wanted to see the words, are these visible for you? I tried to make it bigger. I could try to make it... How's that? I don't know if I can scooch the camera a bit. How's that? I think that might actually be bigger than it is on the other page. Because I think, given how much it takes up... That's pretty dang close. Alright. Hopefully I got that in for you guys. Alright. I'm gonna start the timer. Hopefully this is copacetic for everybody. Why do I have some of this? Hang on. I know, I picked the worst time to make it easier to find my buttons. Alright, let's do 20 minutes of clicky clackies. I don't know if I like that. it sounds too clinical. That just sounds more whimsical. I'm gonna sneeze. Okay, my headphones flew off. That happened. Sorry, guys. Keep getting midway through sentences and getting stuck. Hang on. I keep reading this sentence because I'm not sure if it actually makes sense. It's a long sentence. It does make sense. Okay. For some reason, I kept getting halfway through that sentence and being like, this, I don't know if this makes sense. So there's only 600 words, but it's a full creation myth. I struggled a little bit at pieces getting from where I started to where I sort of wanted to go with it. But this is basically a story of a Leoneth in isolation, alone in the void with, you know, no one to talk to, essentially, and sort of realizing that within her was the power of creation. And it sort of explains a little bit of how her sort of celestial form was created. So this is sort of serving the dual purpose by her worshippers of explaining how she created the world, but also how the world created her a little bit, how she received the form in which she is often depicted with the stars as her blood and these great glowing twin sun eyes. And all of the planets of the galaxy sort of being her garments, and the spiral arms of the galaxy being her hair sort of flowing around her. So this is a complete creation myth. This is something that could be found in a holy book or told to the characters by a priest or a devout worshiper or whatever. Or it could be found in a journal or a holy book or whatever. And I think what I'm going to do is just add a little... Because every now and then I like to start off a blog with, now this is the story of how the world was made. And then we will do a meet the Celestial Mother. And then this is where I will put the information that I've already written about Leoneth. I might take another quick bio break. It doesn't feel like it's been that long since I got back from break, but I need to use the... I started following this artist called Oki, and she always calls it the Tinkle Palace, which I love. So I need to use the Tinkle Palace. So I might go do that quick. And so that I'm thinking what I'll do is I will sort of transcribe the information about the Celestial Mother into this portion of the blog to give a little bit of context to the story. And then under that, I'll write another little creation myth to go to sort of be a sandwich of story, information, story. Sort of like the last one was like story and then information and then just hey, this is going to be a project on the blog. I want to write one of these for each of the gods, and I also want to start doing, so what I'm thinking is, it might be a couple weeks before we're able to do another one of these again, but what I'm thinking is I'd like to do Neath next, and talk about, because I think the juxtaposition, the contrast between the goddess of life and the goddess of death will be very interesting. And then once I've done sort of an introduction to Neath, some sort of stories that sort of are grassroots grounding stories for her, then I would do a story or a couple of stories about Neath and Leoneth, and so on and so forth as I go through. And then eventually I'll have this big intermix of stories, probably more than I'll need, but it's fun. It's fun to do this sort of stuff. This was kind of how I did the creation for the pantheon for the Celestial Serenade as well. The main thing is, when I did the Celestial Serenade, I sort of did a really pared down pantheon. I basically just created 4 different deities, and then each of those deities had 2 aspects, a male and a female. Which, even though that meant that I ended up with 8 deities, that I was playing around with, it was a really simplified way of sort of creating a pantheon, was just to basically go earth, air, fire, water. Here's what the male aspect is, here's what the female aspect is. And some of those gods were sort of lost gods or forgotten gods, where they weren't really thought about as much, so that it was easier to come up with myths and stories to focus on, because I knew I wasn't going to get to put the whole sorted, you know, creation story. Everything wasn't going to end up making it in there, so I just pared it down. But with something like a D&D campaign where the characters are going to be traveling, they're going to be traveling to a lot of these core worlds, they're going to be meeting a lot of the NPCs that actually, you know, worship these gods or have studied these gods or whatever. And it will become sort of relevant to some of what they're doing and what they're studying. There's a lot more potential to fit this kind of stuff in. So I definitely don't mind having a bunch of little stories sort of at my fingertips, so that when my characters inevitably ask something random about this god that, or this temple or whatever that they're visiting, I can pull something out of my back pocket and be like, yes, I prepared for this. Because the worst is when you're a DM and you're actively fleshing out your world as your party goes to things, but then they ask you about something that you haven't fleshed out yet, and you have to be like, and you either have to make something up on the spot, or you have to just kind of shoo them over to the part of the world that you've finished already. So yeah, so that's kind of the plan, is to have just a bunch of stuff that's in my back pocket, and if it doesn't end up coming out in the game, it's not the end of the world. But it's nice to have it there, and it's nice to have it for my blog. It's nice to do something that's just fun and creative. So I'm gonna take another quick break. I hope this hasn't been too boring. I feel like I've just basically been talking at you guys. I assume when you guys get quiet, I assume it's because you are all also working. But if I'm talking too much, please tell me. We're gonna do at least one more sprint when I get back, probably two. Just to finish things off. I'll probably do one sprint of the sort of informational and then another sprint of the creational, creative stuff. And then we'll see what time it is. So I will be back. I have returned. I am here again. I'm so cold this week. I don't know why. It's Friday. My brain is on vacation already. Okay. Sorry, it always takes me a hot minute to get settled back into my chair. Because I have my pillow to adjust and my blankets. And my hand socks. Alright, let's just do another 20 minutes of focus. Oh, hang on. Let me belay that. Hey, Marathon. What is up? How is it going? I almost said, how is it doing? How is it doing? The octopus shall be donned. Just a minute to get settled back in beneath my blanket here. We have this lovely, lovely octopus made by It's Woof. The wonderful and fabulous. Oh yeah, I gotta put my headphones on first. Order of operations. The sky is up. I am okay. Is it the beginning of your weekend, Marathon? I hope the week treated you well. I hope the weekend is gonna be a good one. We've got D&D tomorrow, so I'm excited about that. Are you just chilling for your Friday night? Look at that. Look at that fabulous octopus. Hang on. There's the one I'm looking for. There we go. Nice. Well, I hope you have a good weekend, Marathon. Appreciate you dropping by, dropping the octopus on us. Cheers. And now we shall restart the timer for realsies. There we go. Get some nice soothing clicky clackies for you, Marathon. Hey, Neo, how's it going? What is up? What is this emote? You always have the most interesting emotes. Is that something from Diablo? That is so interesting. I thought it was a dragon, but it only has one eye. It's from Doom. Okay, I was close. Doom, Diablo, demons. It's, you know, it's all demons. I'm glad that you guys are sticking around. Honestly, it's been so quiet, I was worried that maybe y'all got mad at me and went away. You're mad now because Doom is not Diablo? No, I know they're very, very different. But they all involve demons, right? You fight demons in Diablo, you fight demons in Doom, you know. Demon fighters unite. Have you not seen the octopus before, Neo? I can swear you've seen it before. It's actually very comfy cozy right now. I'm enjoying this warmth. I'm doing pretty good, Neo. It's Friday. My brain is a little bit out there. Ready to be done with actual work. But I'm doing pretty good. The Tiger writes, hello, welcome in. We are Octopus right now. How's it going? Roar books. Neo, you're sick. I hope you're resting for a change, because I know how you are about work. And I hope you feel better soon. It's going well. Glad to hear it. How is the writing? The stream's coming along really well. We're just doing some fun little development for my homebrew D&D world called Cryptonia. That my players are actually going to be playing in tomorrow off stream. And we are talking today about the Celestial Mother, Aleanath, who is sort of the head of the pantheon, the center of the pantheon, the creator goddess of the universe. And so we have written a creation myth, a story of how the world was made. And I'm just sort of transcribing a little bit of information about her right now, because this is going to go on my blog, so this will give people a little bit more grounding in the information that the players have actually received. And then we're going to try to write one more, because I had 2 ideas for creation myths, so we're going to try to write one more creation myth after. The writing went well. Wrote a chapter of Breaking Step this morning, and 1 chapter of Hope and Coincidence this afternoon. That's awesome! I used to skip, like, not skip, switch projects during the day, and it would really, just, my brain couldn't always do it. So I tend to do one project one day and then the next project the next day. But that's awesome when you can get progress on two projects in one day. Can't rest. It's physically and psychologically impossible. Neo, when you're sick, you need to rest. You will be super sick if you don't rest. My goodness. My goodness. So long as the block is well defined, switching for me is easy. That's awesome. Yeah, I think my brain just prefers to like get in a mode all day and just stay in that mode all day, which is fine. To each their own, right? Whatever works for you. I know I've talked to other people who are like, no, if I try to do the same thing all day, I just get stale at it. So yeah, it's totally awesome. Whatever gets those words flowing for you. Sorry if you guys are noticing a lot of typos. It's because I am looking at completely another screen. Imagine resting when you can work. Neo. A waste of time, my lady. It's also why I set my blocks as one chapter as well as a fixed time. Having ended the chapter helps break the flow and move another project when I get back. Nice. Yeah, my blocks tend to be by scene. So like I'll write a scene and then take a break. But for some reason, my brain just handles it better if when I come back to it that same day, I work on another scene from the same book, and then I sort of reset overnight and switch my brain over to the other project. Hey, why am I here? What is up? All the clicks and all the clacks are happening today. So this is mostly stuff that we had talked about at the beginning of the stream. Just kind of stuff that I had established as information about the Celestial Mother. My drawing tablet is coming tomorrow. Why? That's awesome. I assume you're planning on doing some more art drawing streams then, once the tablet comes. Ghost and I have been working on, we actually had to buy a second capture card for reasons, and I just need to find the right cable to hook it up to my iPad. I don't know when the next time I'm going to be drawing a map is. Probably at the end of this year, I'm going to start working on a map for our Revalia Chronicles, which, unbelievable to me, is going to be publishing next year. So I'll probably, hopefully, use the capture card to draw a map on stream with my tablet. Gonna wish you a good day. Have to head out and hunt down dinner. No worries, the Tiger Raids. Thank you so much for the raid. I really appreciate it. And I hope you have a good evening. I hope dinner is delicious. I made a chicken corn chowder in my crock pot last night, and I was very pleased with how it came out. Trying to? Awesome. I can't wait to see. You did such a good job with the mouse, honestly. I know you were saying that it wasn't like the best control and stuff, but I cannot do that kind of art with my mouse at all. So I thought you did pretty damn good. I'm gonna actually make this a... where I might start up this second creation myth, and then we'll run another sprint to finish it off. Having multiple DPI options helps. That makes sense. I also just I don't art a lot anymore. Not nearly as much as I should. I just never have the time. After this sprint, though, I'll show you guys the update of the cross stitch and how that's going. I do believe it has been 10 minutes since we put the octopus on, so sadly, he gotta go. He gotta go over here for now. Oh, cheers, Exiled Fae. Thank you for the hydrate. I'll do a double. Thank you for catching me at not hydrating myself for a while. Alright. I actually really like this, the opening of this second creation myth. In the beginning, the world was empty and void, filled only with Elianath and her desire. As she opened her eyes upon this vast celestial mirror, ready to shape it to her desired form, she caught a glimpse of her own reflection against the dawn spark of the universe's first breath. Heck yeah! This is what we would in a novel call purple prose, but because we are writing mythology, perfect. Perfect. I guess I should update you guys on word counts, because I haven't. So we did, I believe it was about 600 words in the first sprint of creation myth. And then in this last sprint, 583 words, mostly transcription of the information that I had shared before. I fleshed this out a little bit more, changed a couple of details, because I like the idea that if the Celestial Mother is this celestial being made from starlight and planets, and auroras and asteroid belts and stuff, that she doesn't have a specific race that she's associated with. She can be depicted as any race, and since she is the creator of all races, every race would have a form of the Celestial Mother that looks like them. Species, sorry. Ghost was pointing out that it's more accurate to say species, and I do agree with that, so I'm trying to get in the habit of calling them species. So there would be a dwarven version of the Celestial Mother, and there would be a centaur version of the Celestial Mother, and there would be a merfolk version of the Celestial Mother. So just tweaking a few details within the lore to things that make a little bit more sense than when I first set it down. And I'm starting on, so the first version of the creation myth that I wrote was the one where Elianath was alone, and she got really lonely, and she pricked her fingers and dripped blood drops of the stars into the universe and sort of shaped everything with pieces of her clothing, and like her breath became the sky and her tears became the oceans and all that. And then now we're doing the one where she sees herself reflected in the mirror. She believes that that what she has seen is the perfect being, and so that she has essentially been trying to recreate that reflection with everything that she has crafted, and essentially that each of her creations are flawed in some way because she is unable to perfectly replicate herself, but also they are also all equal in sort of their divinity or their respect or reverence, because they are all attempts by the same deity to achieve the same perfection. So that's sort of what I'm going for now. Just gonna take a quick breather here and then get back to it. My state refund also came in today on the same day as payday. Why? That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. I have to email our tax lady. I haven't even looked at what day is tax day in Canada yet, if I'm honest, because I don't want to know. Tax day, Canada, 2023. I technically have until June. It's April 30th. That's not terrible. I technically have until June as a self-employed person to file my taxes, but I hate filing my taxes. My tax lady is wonderful and amazing, and she is just so knowledgeable and so helpful and so sweet and so encouraging to me as a business owner. But I have to give her so much paperwork every time I run a promotion or buy a proof of one of my books or like anything. Our new chairs, because mine is an office chair and a work chair, like I'll have to give her receipts for that. Also, because we rent out part of our house as an apartment, we have to get like any work that we did on the house, all the yard work that we did, we have to get her receipts for that. The replacement of our AC unit, all that stuff she has to have proof of receipts so that we can claim our proper expenses on our taxes. So it's just this really, what I should really do, and what I say I'm going to do every year, is gather my paperwork as I go and just remember, hey, I'm going to have to send that to tax lady at tax time. And every year I'm like, that's too much extra effort. And I have to just go back through all of my records. I keep meticulous records, so it's easy to go back through them. But also I have to go back through all of my records of everything that I did last year and pull all of my receipts and zip them up into digital files and send them to her. And the year has been so crazy so far that I just haven't had time to get started on it. Every week I look at my computer and I'm like, I should really start getting my tax documents together. And now it's mid-February, and guess how many of my tax documents are together? Working on my book, so I'm gonna lurk for a bit. No worries, Neo. We're gonna be doing another sprint here in a minute, like I said. I'm just apparently yammer-yammering again. I've done a lot of yammer-yammering today, so if you guys are sick of hearing me talk, you can just be like, hey, hit the timer. It won't offend me. But yeah, my least favorite thing about the start of every new year is taxes. And we hire someone to do our taxes because ever since I started publishing, my taxes are stupidly complicated. Doing some character details, that's awesome. So are you doing like little practice scenes to get in touch with your characters, or are you just sort of writing character bios and fleshing them out? You don't have to answer if you're ready to be in lurk mode. I'm just curious. I'm just curious what your preparatory style is. But yeah, so I don't think I should have any trouble mentioning this, because I think that this has been talked about pretty thoroughly on other streams, but I am an American citizen. I'm also a Canadian citizen. I have dual citizenship. I was born and raised in Pennsylvania, married a Canadian at age 18, and moved to Canada. So I went through the whole process of getting my permanent residence and then living in Canada long enough to get my citizenship and do the whole citizenship test. And luckily, Canada is one of those lovely countries that does not ask you to give up your former citizenship in order to gain citizenship in their country. So I still have my U.S. citizenship. I have 2 passports. American passport and a Canadian passport, which is a pain in the ass, but it's, when travel is a thing that we are able to do, it's the most convenient. So I have all that, and it means that I still have my social security number. Like, I still have my tax information is still, I count as an American in terms of tax information. So that has made it easier for me to do things like publish to Amazon. I haven't needed to sign up for like an international tax identification number. Everything is really simple and really easy on the vendor side. Same with like Twitch and stuff. Everything is really simple, really easy. I just give them my US citizen tax information, because Canada and the US have tax treaty. And I don't have to go through any extra hoops or any extra, like, steps to get my T4s and all that. But on this side, on the tax filing side, there is an extra step that I have to go through because all of my tax information is under a social security number instead of under a social insurance number as we have here in Canada. So there's this whole extra step of being a business owner and all these extra rules about filing for my taxes that I don't know because it's complicated. So ever since I started self-publishing, we hire somebody to do our taxes. And she's great. She's amazing. She's super encouraging. My first couple of years when we were filing with her and I had basically no income, she was always like, it takes on average 8 years for a business to make money. You'll be fine. You'll get there, sweetie. You're doing great. And every year she's like, it's so good to see you. It's so good to see like the progress that you're making with, because she sees my T4 every year, right? And you know, every year she has a couple more like, this year we'll claim these expenses because, you know, this is where you are at this point in your business thing. So never knew it would be such a huge encouragement booster to have someone doing my taxes. But I hate the process of getting it, because I inevitably forget some of the paperwork we need. And she's like, well, do you have this? And I'm like, oh shit, yes, I do have that. Let me go dig through my other stuff, and here it is. But she's amazing. I would have no idea like what I could even claim on my taxes if it wasn't for her. So we do, luckily, because I'm self-employed, have a little bit of extra time to file as well, but we try to get it done by tax day anyway, because if you owe, you have to pay by the earlier day versus the later day. Taxes! I basically write what I have on my mind, what I think can be good. I do that for the main characters, and then I try to change some details here and there if I don't feel it's maybe not professional, but it's what I do. I mean, that's my whole writing. You just described my whole writing process, Neo, is to write whatever's on my mind and change it later if it's not working. So if it's not professional, I'm doing it wrong. I still wrote a single line of the story after 5 weeks, just building the universe and characters. Hey, it's the first step in the process, and it takes as long as it takes. I just have to blow my nose here quickly, so pardon me while I block you guys out for a minute. And man, if you guys ever want to know how complicated taxes can be, all you have to do is move to another country, and that makes it 20 times more complicated, in case you're wondering. Because America is really mean, and even though they have a tax treaty with Canada, they still want to know how much money I'm making, because they might want me to also pay them taxes if I ever make enough money, which no other country in the universe, no other country on Earth does. Fun times. Still not wrote a single line of the story after 5 weeks. I see. I mean, hey, world building is... Neo, you do not think America is perfect. I am not even going to rise to that bait. I know for a fact that you don't feel that way. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, Listen, I won't go into it here because it can be a very convoluted topic. I think we talked about it a bit on Flannel's podcast, actually. Because I was with another American who had immigrated. But if you talk to any American who has immigrated anywhere else in the world... are you, Neo? Are you American? I thought you were French. Do you have dual citizenship? Do you also have dual citizenship? I don't want to assume. I feel like you're trolling me, but just in case. Neo, I can always trust you to troll me. I appreciate. But yeah, if you talk to any American who has moved outside of America to another country, the number one thing that is a problem is taxes, because they want to know what's going on with your bank account. They want to know how much money you're making, and they want to know where that money is going. And there's like a threshold where it's a really high threshold. You have to be making like triple digits. I think it's something like $250,000 a year or something insane like that. or like $300,000 a year, and then they'll also tax you above what you've paid taxes in your home country. So I'm probably never going to have to worry about that, but it's still annoying to know it's a thing. I'll just migrate to a country with no extradition treaty so they can't get me for not doing US taxes. Hey, it works for like all those other rich people. Not to say, I'm not assuming your social class, Exiled Fae, sorry. But apparently, I think the biggest problem with the US tax system, and again, I won't get too high on my horse here or too far on the soapbox, but I think the biggest problem is people know how to hide their money in offshore bank accounts so that they don't have to pay taxes on them, and it strains the system. Because it turns out if you want things like public health care, in Canada, the way we have public health care is we pay for it in our taxes. The taxation, the money that we pay in federal taxes, and the reason why things like sales tax and stuff are so high is because those go to federal programs. Those go to public health care. Those go to infrastructure. And if you don't have money coming in from the taxes, if you're not taxing your highest paid individuals who all wriggle out of paying taxes somehow, then you don't have the money for those programs. Class? I have no class. Exiled Fae. I'm with you. The biggest problem with taxes is you have to pay them. I don't disagree, but paying taxes is what gives you social programs. Just putting it out there. Because in Canada, I think Canadians are just used to paying more for taxes. We are taxed more than Americans. Our tax laws are simpler, but we pay more in taxes. But we also expect to get more of that back. We expect to get that back. I think they're trying to push through a federal prescription coverage as well, which we desperately need. And dental would be nice. Because eye and dental apparently don't count as health. Because they're not covered by the federal health insurance. I don't mind paying taxes. My problems are the government wasted on bombs and shit. And I have to figure out myself every year. It's complicated. No, you're right. You're right. And if you guess wrong... Oh my god, okay, so I promise I'm gonna shut up and run the sprint timer here in a minute, but we had this problem. We lived in England for a year, and we didn't know at the time if we were gonna be living there longer, if we were gonna be coming back, but we lived in England for a year, and we came back, I think it was in August, like a month before school started, because Ghost was starting a new job here in Canada. And we scanned our passports at the airport, as you do, because you have to. They don't give you a choice. They have these automated machines now that you scan when you come back through customs. And so everything was fine. Everything was dandy. We bought a house. We settled in. We came time to do our taxes. And we found this nice tax lady that I was just talking about the first time we were working with her. She filed our taxes, and the government was like, "You're lying about when you came back to Canada." And in fairness, they wanted it a month extra in our favor. They were like, "You came back in July," and we're like, "No, we came back in August." And they're like, "No, we have your passport scanned in July." And I was like, "I literally have receipts from the date that they quoted, proving that we were in Scotland, at a pub in Scotland, the day that they said we came back to Canada." And I was like, so there's no way that we came into Canada that day. And our poor tax lady had to call, like, so many people so that they would switch our customs scan date. And it was all because in Canada, you can get a GST rebate, which is one of the sales taxes. You can get a GST rebate based on how many months you've spent in the country. And they wanted to say that we had been in the country for an extra month and that we were screwing ourselves out of a month of GST rebates. And it's like, can you please just... First of all, how did that happen? Because an automated machine scanned our passports on that day and set the date wrong. And also, can you please just file our freaking taxes? So yeah, that happened. That was a whole big rigmarole. Taxes are complicated. And the thing is, my tax lady told us that, they're like 4 times as complicated in the US as they are in Canada. So I can only imagine how much more complicated it is for you guys. It was nice when we lived in England because they don't have to file taxes unless they're self-employed. So, like, Ghost Pepper was asking his colleagues and was like, are you, so Pi, you have to choose which you want. I can do them in sequence, but the hats do not stack with the octopus. Because this beautiful, glorious handmade, we're not going to risk, poking it or damaging it. So I can do the octopus and then do the hat, the glasses, octopus now, and then the other 3. As long as you're happy with that. Perfect. Perfect. So we will do octopus first, and then we will do the triple special for Pi. Pi, how are you doing? How's it going? I hope you love the octopus. But yeah, so we were in England and Ghost Pepper was like, so do I have to file taxes? And his coworkers were like for self-employed people? And they were very confused. And it was like, for one magical hot minute, we lived in a place where taxes were a thing. Mooncloud, hello! How's it going? We've just been bitching about taxes. Pie home, Pie doing Pie. Hope Megan is well. Megan is well. It is Friday. We're doing some fun writing here. I'm going to do at least one more sprint to do a little bit more creation mything here. I'm going to probably get up in the middle of the sprint to go grab the ears, but that is all well and good. Pie will lurk. Pie, thank you so much for those redeems. I'll make sure that you get to enjoy all of that beautiful headgear. Mooncloud, how's it going? Sorry I missed your entrance there, but I hope you're doing well. Oh my goodness. Man, once I get going on the taxes thing, it's just too easy to go. And I saw what you said, Exiled Fae, as well. That vision and dental are separate. We're very lucky to get everything through Ghost Pepper's work. Let us stretch our tentacles. Stretchy stretch. Oh, you did become the octopus as well. That means, hang on! Becoming the octopus means you get a voice as well. This beautiful, high-pitched, scion striker voice. For the 10 minutes that we wear the octopus hat, you get the full treatment, Pie. I'm stretching hardcore. It's happening. These tentacles are stretching. High-pitched heaven. Some people really love this voice. Shagraz loves this voice. It's fine, Pie. I don't mind. I've had enough coffee to do the voice. It's all good. So yes, it is, what was I even talking about? It doesn't matter. We're gonna do a creation myth. It's gonna be amazing. We started the first few sentences. I am happy. It is Friday. I have a bunch of small tasks planned for myself this afternoon, which I think will be a nice change of pace. I've been writing hardcore lately, guys. Book 2 of Everyone's Child is already 10,000 words longer than book 1, and I expect it will be at least another 13,000 words before it's finished, so fun times! But now, we're gonna have the clickies and also the clackies. Flutter! Hello, how are you? We are an octopus. We are writing creation myths. I hope you're excited for D&D tomorrow. That is what we are working on. I am Scion Striker at the moment. Sneezed all day. Oh no, Neo. I am also very excited. My players came up with something they call Mermaid. It is a concert for the benefit of merfolk. I am so excited to see what they do with it. They were joking partially when they came up with it, but I am sure it's going to be very interesting. I can't wait to find out how they roll. They have a very motivated bard in their party. You are surviving as one does. I hope you get to have a good weekend, Flutterdie. I feel you. Oh gosh, voice cracking. I feel you. It's been crazy here sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, hey, I finally finished everything. It's time to relax. Oh, it's 11 o'clock. That means it's time to sleep. Oh boy, do I know what that feels like. I'm sending some love to all of you in the chat. You're all amazing. Pie, you're amazing. Neo, you're amazing. Flutter, you're amazing. Exiled Faye, if you're still hanging out. Peter, Mooncloud, I'm gonna miss some people, but you're all amazing. You're all the best. I love you all. If you're lurking and I didn't say your name, I love you too. You're the best. You're amazing. All my love. I forgot what I was writing in this sentence. Let me backtrack. Sometimes when I misspell a word, my brain is like, just keep adding duplicate letters. Sooner or later you'll spell it right. And that's not how it works. It reminds me of the goose in Charlotte's Web when they're like, how do you spell terrific? And it says TEERRIIFFICC. I carry that quote with me for all of my life. Yes!
In one more minute, we're gonna take the octopus off. And we're gonna put on the ears and stuff, but I'll still use the voice a little longer to make up for being quiet. It's alright, Pie. It's not a strain. It's totally fine. I know my voice was cracking a little bit before, but that's totally normal when I use this voice. It's alright. If it starts to hurt, I'll stop. I appreciate you taking care of me. Let me save, and I will go get those ears. I gotta remember the order that they go on. I believe it's ears first. Tilt this camera up a bit so that you can see Mr. Skellington hat. Oh gosh, it's already so precarious. And the glasses. The final piece. Now I can't look down. Or I will spill the hat into my coffee, probably. Here we go. Here we go! I just wanted to show up and chat. Well, I appreciate that, Pie. And I appreciate you, but I want you to get what you paid for as well. Those are precious, precious star drops you used. The only reason we don't pair these hats with the octopus is because we don't want to accidentally damage what Woof spent so much time working on. I forgot to show you guys the cross stitch. I'll do it at the end of the sprint. I promise. Before the end of stream, you will see all the details of the beast. He's almost finished. I just have to do his hand, which sounds really bad out of context. What if I redeem 599 hydrations? I will probably try to give you some points back. I would probably cap out those hydrations so as not to hurt myself. But I appreciate the thought, Pi. I appreciate that you would be willing to troll me like that. And I appreciate that you're so kind. You're such a sweetie. Why does it want all the to be one word, and then when I make it one word, it marks it wrong? What's wrong with your word? Yeah, I promise I won't hydrate myself to death. That would not make a good stream. People would be sad. Right, exiled Faye? Sometimes I humor it. I'm like, what are you doing? And then it makes the most worst, horrible, laughable suggestion, and I'm like, get out of here, word, you're drunk. It's the ghost of Clippy. It's the ghost of Clippy still haunting the program. 599 posture checks. I feel like that would be redundant, but we would spend some time on our posture for sure. The ghost of Clippy still haunts Word even to this day, saying, hey, I see you're writing a thing, let me make an awful suggestion. Word, are you doing right, Neo? All right, I've finished. That was another 665 words. Small sprints today, but it's working. That brings our total for the stream to 1,859 words, which is not totally a lot compared to how I usually write, but it is the perfect amount for a blog about a celestial mother for my Cryptonia series. I'm very happy with that. I think that's probably about as much as we wrote last time. If I go into the writing prompts and look at our welcome to Cryptonia, yeah, we wrote even less for that one. So I think these are good little bite-sized chunks. Sometimes length isn't everything.
I'm gonna start talking like me again, because I'm pretty sure that was at least 10 minutes of collectively speaking like the octopus. Yeah, so length isn't everything. It's all about having these little bite-sized stories about the gods. And so we've introduced the Celestial Mother, we've introduced a couple ideas of how she created the universe and why she created the universe. And I also threw in, at the end of this last one, a little bit of a morality, like a little bit of a moral. I don't know why I said amorality. A little bit of a moral at the end of this last one, because that's what a lot of myths are too, right? They're also sort of fables. They're explaining why the universe is the way it is. And in some ways, this one is explaining why there are so many planets and why there are so many different species across all of the different planets. But there's also a little moral thrown in at the end there that the Celestial Mother loves all of her creations equally, and that even though she finds them all to be exiled, Faye, thank you so much for using your Prime sub. Oh, you converted from a Prime to a Tier 1, rather. Thank you so much. Thank you for previously using your Prime sub, and thank you so much for resubbing. I appreciate. Please enjoy the emotes. I know you've already enjoyed them, but continue enjoying them. So yeah, there's just a little bit of a moral at the end here, saying the Celestial Mother loves all of her creations equally and sees flaws in them all equally. So welcome your celestial brothers and sisters from across the galaxy, because we are all equal in her eyes. Just a little bit of I feel like it makes sense that if you have this this goddess who is the creator of everything, the creator of all races, the center of essentially the universe, that anyone who worships her would then have to accept that every form of life is equal, that there are no greater life forms and lesser life forms, there are only life forms, there are only people, and that even though people are different, they are all the children of the Celestial Mother. I feel like that would be built into the teachings. I don't feel like you could have a church that essentially preached that the Celestial Mother made everyone, but she hates these people. I don't think that would work. Granted, I mean, we could look at real world religion and see how people find ways to rationalize things that make no sense everywhere. But I feel like the core doctrine of the Celestial Mother would be, she made everyone, she loves everyone, suck it the hell up. Listen, part of the cool thing about creating your own world that is not the real world and is not necessarily based on the real world is you can take all that discrimination and you can just shove it out the window and it doesn't have to exist. Now, that's not to say that there's no discrimination in this world and that this is a perfect world. The players have already encountered some cases. Basically, during their second main session, they were on a hyperspace train. The train was hijacked by a group of merfolk, and when the players questioned the merfolk said that the hyperspace train network is destroying their planet. It is stealing the water from their oceans to create the form of the tunnels, and that this is destroying their ancestral home. But that when they have tried to make people aware of their plight, people have largely just sort of ignored them. And that the merfolk are particularly upset about the dwarves, upset in regards to the dwarves, because the dwarves are the people who originally the hyperspace network was created by dwarves. So there's definitely some interspecies interactions going on whereby, you know, not everybody does love each other, but for the sake of the setting, I do feel like the doctrine of the Celestial Mother does include love everyone the way you love yourself, because we are all children of the same mother. And if you're mean to that guy over there, you're actually being mean to your brother or sister, and that's rude. So for all intents and purposes, eventually I think we'll get into how the Celestial Mother isn't always the nicest. Probably won't be next week, because I don't even know how streaming is going to look next week, because there's going to be some health stuff. But the next time we do one of these, I think we're going to look at Neith, who is Nith or Neith. She has a couple different names. They all have a couple different names. Who is the Reaper. And she is the goddess of death in the same way that the Celestial Mother is. If I switch displays here, actually, we can take a very quick look at the Reaper. Bard, hello! Thank you so much for those 69 biddies. How are you doing? So we'll talk more about the Reaper when we actually start working on her myths. But she is known as Nith or Neith, short for Beneath. And I have been referring to her primarily as female, but she also has male aspects. So she can be a male Reaper or a female Reaper. I'm thinking that she's one of those deities where she's perceived differently based on the people who she's interacting with and what they believe. So if you believe that death would take a feminine form, then she would take a feminine form. If you believe that death, if you're more comfortable with a masculine form of death, he would then take on a masculine form. Even in some cases, an anthropomorphic form, a non-gendered form, a more sort of vague, idea instead of an actual form. Because sometimes that's how deities work, and sometimes it doesn't make sense for a deity to have a specific gender. So that is Neith. Been working a lot to make up for lost time. Bard, I hope you're still taking care of yourself. I hope you're taking breaks. I hope you're not sitting at your computer too much. I'm doing good. It's Friday. We just finished doing some celestial creation myths for my Cryptonia setting. We're probably going to wrap up here in a little bit because I got to go get some food, but it's been good. I think it's been overall good. We got some sprints in, we got some productivity in, had some fun. Damn ads. Oh, I'm so sorry, Neo. It shouldn't really be showing you ads unless it should only be doing pre-rolls. I do have it set up that way, but if it's not working that way, I can check. Want a cup of coffee form? Yeah, I mean, maybe if you think death would be a cup of coffee, Neo, then I feel bad for you if you associate coffee with death. But if you associate coffee with death, then it could happen. Bard, oh my goodness, you are so sweet. Thank you so much for gifting a sub to Neo. Neo, enjoy those emotes. Enjoy viewing ad-free for a month. And thank you so much, Bard. So yeah, that's what we've been up to. That's what we've been doing. And the Reaper, the reason why I keep referring to her in the female aspect is because I definitely think when we start to get into the Neith and Alianeth myths, I definitely think there are some sister quarrels in there. I definitely think there are some times when the claws come out, when the two of them clash. They have very different views of the universe because one views from life and one views from death. And so I think there's going to be some, we are sisters, we don't always get along myths in there. But yeah, the Reaper is essentially the specter who ushers souls from the living world into the afterlife. And I had mentioned before that there is a quarrel between Elianeth, the Celestial Mother, and Agas, the horned god of war. There is a story that Agas, the god of war, turned his wrath unfairly against Neith, and slew the Reaper out of anger. So that is what the Celestial Mother preaches, is that Agas killed her sister in a fit of rage. But the worshippers of Agas claim that the Celestial Mother ordered the horned god of war to kill the Reaper because she was angry / jealous / being a bee. And so that is the dispute that exists between the churches, is who was the one responsible for the death of the Reaper and who is to blame. And yeah, so there's some celestial politics to get into. I'm going to take these off because I believe we've had time, and I'm going to show you that cross stitch I promised. What did you just get, Bard? Is it a book? Is it a book? Is it a book in physical form? Let me grab this sweet boy here. It's 2 books in physical form, I'm assuming. That's amazing. If they're the ones I'm thinking of, they were the first time I worked with Molly, my cover artist, and please enjoy them. They are some of her favorite covers, some of my favorite covers, in physical form. So this is the progress. This is how it's going. You can see that I have filled in all of the line work on the beast's face. If I get really close, you can see there was only half of it done the other day. I have actually... It takes me so long to do this because I actually... If I do it the way it is on the pattern and I don't like it, I tear it out and do it differently. So this tooth actually did not look right, and this eye on this side of the face also did not look right when I did it according to the pattern. So I spent like 20 minutes changing them until they looked good. So yeah, this is coming along. That chandelier I'm still in love with, even though it was a pain in the dick. So yeah, you can kind of see, if I hold it back a little bit, the sharpness of like the face versus how this part still looks really blurry because it doesn't have any details yet. So I'm gonna do the hand, and then once I've finished the hand, Beast is basically done, and then I'm gonna start doing the detail work on Belle. You can see these weird little parts that don't look like actual text yet. That's gonna say "be true." Right now it just kind of looks like these weird symbols down there, these weird K's, but that's gonna be actual text once I get all the detail work in. So that's how it's going. That's how it's going so far. Nice! These are the books in physical form. Apparently, Bard was with me on this ride the other night. Apparently, sometimes Amazon just discounts indie books for whatever reason. Brave Throng Rue, yeah. Totally. Do I ever drink alcohol while writing? Generally, no, because it doesn't work out the way I hope. But I wouldn't be opposed. Also, hey Sky, how's it going? What was I saying before that? Oh yeah, apparently Amazon will just discount indie books sometimes. And so we were looking at prices for my books the other day, and these were just like randomly half off. So I'm gonna keep an eye out for that. Unfortunately, as soon as I had posted about the sale, it reverted back. So it didn't last for very long, but I'm keeping an eye out for that stuff. If you guys see me posting randomly about books in my series that are discounted, I'll post some warnings on them next time that they go really fast, apparently. But apparently it's a thing. I get the normal amount of royalties, and so Bard was with me on that ride. And she got 2 for the price of 1 out of it. So congrats, Bard. I hope you enjoy them. If I drank while writing, I think my writing would get real smutty real fast. I mean, maybe if that's what you're going for. I feel like if I wrote something while I was drunk, I would be like, yeah, this is the best. And then I would read it the next morning and it would be incomprehensible. I feel like that's what would happen. But if you feel like it'll work for you, go for it. I'm not gonna say no. I'm glad they arrived so quickly, too. That just happened the other day. One of my gods I'm writing is the god of laziness. You'd think that you can be lazy all day, but actually you have to work your ass off at the age of 5 until you die, preferably at work. Then you can rest forever in his realm. Neo, that sounds awful. Also, super realistic, but awful. Another god is Glid, the god of dreams. It's a cloud forcing you to sleep until you die. Why do all of your gods make people die? That sounds terrible. Realistic to gods, though, let's be honest. Flutter, I'm glad you appreciate, because this is for Flutter, for anyone who didn't know. So I'm glad you like how it's looking. That's the most important thing, is that if Flutter likes it. Because it's supposed to be for her wall. As a teen, I wrote extensively and maliciously. As I grew more jaded, I feel like I only get writing done while drinking. Hey, if it helps you to get the writing done, absolutely go for it. Some people say, write drunk, edit sober. So there you go. There's people who've done it. Maybe I should start drinking and writing more. I'm not gonna tell you no. Speaking of alcohol, I left stuff in my cart. Browse. Pen names plural depends on the drink. Wine and vodka produce different genres. Interesting, but that does make sense. It's a different kind of drunk. Gods want you to die so you're with them forever. Sounds a little bit mean, Neo, but not unwarranted, really. So yeah, that was a little bit of a deeper dive into some of the lore for my Cryptonia series. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I feel like I talked at you a lot today. I never know if you guys enjoy those portions of the stream or if you just want me to STF you and do the writing. Do you plan on pulling a token and inventing your own language? You know, I am enamored by the idea of conlanging. I have created bits and pieces of language. I've created like words and phrases from various different languages. I don't know if I have the patience to create an entire language and like rules for it. My gods are crazy. I mean, hey, it's fair. If that's what you're going for that world, go for it. I actually have a whole book on conlanging that was bought for me by the lovely and fabulous Flutterdye, if she's still hanging out in the chat. And I still have it and I've read it and it's great. It's amazing. Conlanging is just it takes so much time. It takes so much like devotion to like actually fully creating a rule set, because you have to be able to like, there has to be rules for this language to exist beyond like just a core set of words, if that makes sense. I would love to do it. It is something I would definitely love to do, and I have, like I said, I've played around with creating bits and pieces of language. In Dreamers Do Lie, ironically, the book we were just talking about, I did create a partial demonic language, and I was actually very careful to make sure that I was using really consonant-heavy, really guttural sounding sounds when I created the words for that language, because I wanted them to feel like a cohesive whole. But I don't think you could create a whole language out of what I made. You have a whole Discord at your disposal. True. Look, I'm not opposed to having like fake languages that exist in my like I shouldn't call them fake languages. I'm not opposed to having conlang in my work. But dang. Only partially paying attention? No worries, Flutter. We were just talking about the lovely conlanging book that you bought for me. I don't know why my camera seems to have gone so dark all of a sudden. Like this whole area just is drenched in darkness. But yeah, no, conlanging is amazing. I would love to give it a spin. So yeah. The Gods Are Crazy is a really good classic film. I've not seen it. Yes, blue today. They were red yesterday, blue today. They keep my hands cozy. If I take them off, my hands freeze. And I usually take them off to eat, and then by the time I'm done eating, my hands are like ice. And Ghost Pepper comes and holds my hand and is like, "Did you eat? You're frozen." And I'm like, "Yes, I did. Thank you for noticing." We're actually gonna look for Cozy as a State of Being. Oh my god, that resonates so heavily with me. My whole aesthetic is comfort. I just want my house coat and my blanket and my hand socks, as Ghost calls them, and I just want to be comfortable. I just want comfort. Yoga pants, big t-shirts, it's my fashion, it's my default state of being, it's everything. You let Ghost Pepper hold your hands. Yes, that's what married people do, Woof. They hold hands. We're gonna look for somebody we can raid. Because I gotta go get some lunch. I would love to hang out with all of you all day because you're all amazing, as we've established. But my stomach wants some food. Now, last time we tried to, I noticed that our friend Delta Flareon was streaming earlier, and the last time we tried to raid her, it went horribly awry. But she seems to have finished up for the day. So, we might head over to Sable because we haven't raided her in so long, and she's been on my list for quite some time as one of the people I want to catch and raid. So, she and I were going to try to hang out today, but unfortunately it didn't work out. The calendar shuffle is real. That's the only thing they do is hold hands. Totally, in the PG-13 version of the universe, that is the only thing that married people do. 20 years of holding hands. That's the story, and I'm sticking to it. Cozy is bad. Neo. No. No, Neo. Cozy is good. Cozy is always good. Cozy might be different for different people, but cozy is where it is. Let me just make sure. Okay. Sorry, you may have heard some stray words there, but I just like to make sure that people aren't entirely AFK when I raid them. It's not a huge deal if they are, but I like to raid people when they're there to appreciate it. So, let's see if we can get the raid to work today. It worked Wednesday, but it did not work Tuesday. Need to get some fingerless gloves. It's so, like, I love these because I could go on at length, but there's those little pips on the keyboard that I need to be able to feel in order to touch type to make sure that my fingers are in the right spot. And I feel like if I had, like, full gloves, I wouldn't be able to feel those. So having these lets me, it doesn't interfere with my typing, but it keeps my hands warm. And then if I get really cold, look, you guys, look. My fingers just fold right in there. It's super convenient. It's so perfect. So it works really well. I got these on Amazon for anyone who's wondering. Pie with a last minute hydrate there. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Last night I worked until like 11 and my hands were freezing. Bard, I'm so sorry to hear that you worked that late. I hope you got tons done. Because I remember talking to you earlier in the evening. But yeah, no, I specifically bought these for the same reason. And I know that you have some of the same health issues that I have, and it's one of the things that contributes to it, because my mother-in-law gets the same. So these are the raid calls. Feel free to use any emotes that make you happy, honestly. It's more about the love than about the specific emotes. We're gonna raid Sable. She is doing Millwordy this year, which I believe means to try and write 1,000,000 words. Which is a lot, by the way, in case you're wondering. So we're gonna drop over there. We haven't said hey to Sable in a while. She is one of the people who runs Game of Tomes And I happened to meet her because she is only a million. Because she actually was one of the heads for NaNoWriMo in my area, because we found out that we actually live quite close together. So she's super lovely. She is also hanging out, I believe, with Tempest Quake, another awesome member of the community, and probably her husband Aaron is probably hanging out somewhere in the stream as well too. So we will say hey to all of them. They are doing sprints, so you guys can get some more work done if you want. I don't know when I will be back, unfortunately. Next week is going to be a little bit dicey health-wise, so keep an eye on the Discord. I will let you guys know when streams are happening and when I'm taking care of myself, because I promise I will take care of myself when I need it. Thank you all so much for making this a wonderful morning. You have no idea how much it means to me, and I will see you again soon. Until then, I love you, and please take care of yourselves.
Ooh, to know your enemy is now complete. Yes.